Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the break. We're gonna have our speaker up next, but before we have our speaker, before I introduce the speaker, there is a piece of UFO news that I do want to mention, everybody. People have been buzzing about it, people have been talking about it, but I don't know if everyone has heard. There's a UFO researcher named Nick Pope. He's been on a lot of the shows. I actually met him a couple times, had some cool conversations with him. Very well-known researcher from England. I think he was in like the Royal Canadian something or other. Not Canadian, the Royal Kingdom.
He was a British UFO.
British UFO ufologist, yeah, kind of high ranking in that. He's been diagnosed with some throat cancer. I believe it's throat cancer, stage 4, so it's pretty aggressive. They think it could be going to his liver. So they're not sure how much time he may have left. So if you know Nick Pope or know of Nick Pope, I just want to let you know that one of the people in the ufology family is under the weather and beyond under the weather and is in bad ways. So we want to put our best wishes and best of luck and all good things to Nick Pope. Great guy, very cool guy. If watch the videos, you'll probably see him, or just put in YouTube Nick Pope, and I'm sure you'll get lots of stuff come up so you know who Nick Pope is. But he's not doing well, so we're sending all of our best to Nick Pope. So, okay, so now on to our speaker.
Before we get started,
yes.
Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, sir, to stop sharing, then we'll have Tom do your intro, and then you can start sharing again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So today's speaker is Ryan Wood. And so we'll do questions at the end, unless you got a super hot burning question that needs to be answered right away. We'll take that, but we prefer to wait till the end for questions. But Ryan Wood, Ryan S. Wood, is a prominent ufologist and researcher, widely recognized for his expertise in the investigation of UFO crash retrievals and the Majestic 12 documents. Yeah, it wasn't just Roswell. They've retrieved other stuff too. There's lots of retrievals. So with a background in mathematics and computer science, Ryan has been at the forefront of UFO research for decades, building upon his father's legacy in the field. He is the author of one of the seminal books, Magic Eyes Only, Earth's Encounters with Extraterrestrial Technology, which documents 104 UFO crash retrievals. Remember I said it's not only Roswell? It's not only Roswell. There's at least 104 other ones that he's documented. And the AI ufologist, Ryan has organized 7 international UFO crash retrieval symposia, bringing together leading experts to discuss and analyze key UFO crash events. He's also the driving force behind the development of UFO Dex, a revolutionary intelligence portal that aims to consolidate and make accessible the vast body of credible UFO knowledge. Through his work on websites, conferences, and publications, Ryan S. Wood has made significant contributions to the advancement of UFO disclosure and public understanding of extraterrestrial phenomenon. And I actually believe I met Ryan at the symposium last year. It was very great to meet him. I had a nice chat with him. And I was so glad when he said he'd come and speak to us. So here he is. Please, Minnesota MUFON. Give a big Minnesota MUFON round of applause to Ryan Wood.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm excited to share my insights as best I can with you today. Let me start by sharing the screen. And everybody can see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, so this is an AI-generated image to capture all the diversity of ufology. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is sort of my the agenda of this talk. There's some 44 slides. We'll probably go a little over an hour. But the core issues of ufology is the first thing I want to talk about. And well, actually, how I got started in this field, because everybody asks, well, what happened? How did that? Talk about UFODEX, which was mentioned. Talk about the AI ufologist, which is a book that I created based on UFODEX, and then sort of how to structure questions around to the AI ufologist and UFODEX, and then talk about the Majestic Documents a little bit, a little refresher on the importance of that and the details there. Little drive through in my book Magic Eyes Only, which was mentioned, and then an example of man-made craft. I mean, for me, I'm done with crashes. I'm now trying to figure out, well, which ones are man-made. man-made craft. How do you identify those? And I'll go one through one example of that. Talks more about resources, and then disclosure, which is everybody's favorite hot topic of, when's it going to be, will it ever be, etc. And then take your questions. So for me, how it started was one time I was, I don't know, 16, 17 years old, and my father, Dr. Bob Wood, brought Stanton Friedman home for dinner. And so that's how I got exposed. And my dad was working at Douglas Aircraft Company at the time. He's got a PhD in physics and aeronautical engineering, and spent his entire career at Douglas Aircraft, McDonnell Douglas, and then Boeing, and retired. So he had this anti-gravity project with, $4.5 million worth of money today. He had Stanton Friedman working for him, and had physicists. They did abduction, regression hypnosis. They instrumented vans out in the desert. I remember going out to the desert personally with some high performance magnetometers, trying to pick up high magnetic fields of anomalous craft. So that was what they were working on. They did some counter-rotating magnetic field experiments and trying to figure out what was going on, and then also keeping track of all their competitors. And the sort of the reason why this all got started was one day his boss came into his office and said, "What are we going to do for the retirement of General Schriever," which is pictured here in the upper left. And whimsically, he said, "Well, why don't we tell him how UFOs do it?" And so his boss said, "Yeah, work that up." And so he did, and convinced his management to give him a bunch of money to go figure it out, because Douglas did not want to be last behind Lockheed Martin or other competitors in figuring out gravity control. I mean, that was the holy grail. I mean, that's the grand secret, in my opinion, that the government is hiding from the public, because it's free energy, it's global transformation, it's everything. And they worked pretty hard at it for a couple of years, and they really didn't make any progress. They did some experiments and so forth. But here's my father at a younger age in the lower left, and then myself and my father at age 96. He passed away at 96 as well. And then I, did a high school experiment, which was a Michelson-Morley interferometer. You can probably barely see this, but with tube-based stuff and lasers and oscilloscopes, and this is all those early days of trying to replicate an attempt to change the speed of light. I did win first place in the Orange County Science Fair for this, but I was not able to change the speed of light at all. So that was my sort of exposure to ufology early on in my career. And then I went off to a normal corporate career at Intel and Digital Equipment Corporation, and a couple Silicon Valley startups, and started Frontline Aerospace and ran that for 15 years. And I'm currently the CEO of Electric Fusion Systems. We're working on nuclear fusion in a roller bag, small scale, radiation-free approach. But when I step back and look at my experience in ufology, these are the core issues that have been challenging everybody since it started. And the first thing is credibility, that there is no real credibility. I mean, we try here and there to make a difference, but it's not in the mainstream. It's not, we've had congressional hearings, we've had all sorts of witness testimony, but it's not in the New York Times. The news media has not gone crazy over this and really dove in and trying to crack the cover up and expose and pry the secrets out. And so that's the one of the core issues is the credibility. And then the next is leadership. I mean, we do our best. I work hard at it. You know, MUFON does, and the Soul Foundation is a new startup trying to make a difference, and drag the evidence out of the world, and in from the hidden places. And then, I mean, those things are kind of important and sort of obvious, but the elephant in the room, which you all probably are intimately familiar with, is funding. I mean, I wrote a paper in 1994 called Ufology in Search of Leadership. And at that time, there was probably $250,000 spent on everything in ufology. And maybe it's $2-3 million today. I'm ignoring ancient aliens, things like that. And it needs $20-30 million to effectively crack the cover up or move ufology forward. You know, you're a loose-knit volunteer organization in Minnesota MUFON, and imagine getting paid to investigate cases instead of just doing it on your own spare time. So there's a lot of different ways to move things forward. So this is one of my attempts at credibility. I wrote these 3 books, Magic Eyes Only, first in 2005, and then in 2023 redid it. And UFOs Who Knows, ? Is just out like a year ago or so, which is famous quotations about ufology, and from all sorts of prominent people. And then the AI ufologist, which we'll talk about more, which answers the big questions of ufology, you know, like, what's the agenda? Why do they abduct people? All that sort of stuff. So the criteria for inclusion in UFOs Who Knows was, you know, how famous are you? How well respectable are you? Credible, accomplished, and so forth. And the quality of the quote, you know, we've got astronauts and celebrities and presidents and military officers and all sorts of things. And so you have to sort of cut it off and choose what's really reputable and strong and desirable as the ultimate sort of skeptic's book. You know, you can hand it to anybody and say, well, read this, or, you know, I don't believe in astronauts. I think they're hooey. But I really want to know what Demi Lovato said, or Miley Cyrus, or another famous celebrity, or Shaq, or, you know, or I'm really excited about scientists and investigators, what they had to say, or I only believe presidents, and so let me look at that. And so you have a lot of capability to influence people or to bring people into the discussion with this particular book. So, you know, Demi Lovato had a case where she's stargazing in a hot tub and tries to make contact with them and goes through sort of this protocol. That's not really the point, but that's an example. But there are 12 astronaut quotes. There are 32 celebrity quotes, scientists and engineers, military generals, admirals, religious people, presidents, and government. Just to give you a snapshot of some of the better known ones. I mean, as far as astronauts goes, we got Gordon Cooper, Edgar Mitchell, James Irwin, Buzz Aldrin, Story Musgrave, Al Warden, Deke Slayton, a couple of Russian ones, Brian O'Leary, and celebrities. I'll just do some of those. David Bowie, John Lennon, Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, Mel Torme, Sammy Davis Jr., Nick Jonas, Aaron Rodgers, Shaquille O'Neal, Kurt Russell, Steven Spielberg, Dorothy Kilgallen, Katy Perry, Alicia Keys, you know, and then there's a bunch of scientists and engineers and military leaders as well. So there's a lot of very interesting, credible people that have said some very profound and arresting quotations on the record in the public domain. They're often cited by newspapers and so forth. or in public settings. And they range in quality and sophistication too, from Edgar Mitchell's sort of there's a giant cover up to, yeah, I saw a light in the sky. It was really weird. So there's 185 of them total in this entire collection. So your first quiz of the day, and you probably will get this, there are many in the intelligence community who would like to see this stay in the black and not see the light of day. There's an error in the equations. We have figured it out and now know how to travel to the stars, and it won't take a lifetime to do it. We have the technology to take ET home. When somebody says we have found an error in the equations, it sure sounds like human beings and humanity before AI figured out how to go to the stars and manipulate gravity control. And this particular quote, you probably have guessed, who it is, and it's Ben Rich. For 15 years, ran Lockheed Skunk Works in Palmdale, California. So, and there's many other quotations that are stunning like this. And then, that's sort of the credibility thing. There's also this leadership vacuum in my mind. And, we want to have, some of the congressmen are pushing hard on that, but they aren't writing very powerful laws to really extract the truth from the people that are hiding it. But, leaders are a pivotal force. They're a multiplier effect. And that's really the thing. Think about multiplying your efforts. How can you make a leveraged effort at what's going on and commit to change? That means embracing AI to use these tools to try to create a vision, create a plan, and execute it. And just sort of doing what you can do to make a difference in ufology. And it all boils down to a lot of relationships and connections with people and the ability to push as hard and as well as you can. I agree. You can push with your own effort. You can push with money. You can push with participation. You can push with recruiting into MUFON. There's all sorts of ways you can lead in ufology. And I just encourage everybody to do that, to go ahead and make a difference in that realm. And funding is the other last thing in the three cores of credibility, leadership, and funding. And so this is an example. I've personally outlined 26 different projects, which add up to $30 million. And you can hunt and choose whichever one you want. But this first one is an example. The project title is Murder in MJ-12 and its Investigations and Book. And I'll just read this of people. There are now over 70 people who have been identified as likely murdered by MJ-12 government cabal in the name of maintaining UFO secrecy, both in the US and the UK. The goal is to apply reputable former FBI agents and homicide detectives willing to investigate and go on the record about these cases, with the upside being that there's no statute of limitation on murder, and finding the real culprits may lead to a better understanding of the depth and sophistication of the cover-up, the conspiracy, besides providing closure for the victim's family. And there's a list of tasks, but the funding is you need 2 full-time equivalent detectives at $200K a year plus travel budgets. You need to hire consultants, but at the end of the day, you may be able to generate a book, you may be able to do a story, you may be able to generate revenue too. So in these 26 projects, there's not only a project title, description, tasks, funding, there's also a revenue opportunity. This is just like venture capital, is that you may get your money back, you may not in this process. And to the extent that people have the connections or wherewithal to be excited about really funding a project that's $50K to $500K, and being the champion of that, I'm happy to assist in facilitation or any way I can to make a difference there. Shifting gears a little bit to UFODEX. UFODEX is your portal to all knowledge on planet Earth. Right now, we currently have 894,836 pages and of data, and I will go to the website and sort of show that a little later. But people say, well, what's in it? And so there's 4,000 files consisting of about 750 books that I chose as the most credible and interesting books in ufology. Government documents, I have like 50 different FBI files of various people, lots of FOIA records. I've been to the National Archives with Linda Moulton Howe and Nick Redfern and my father and Richard Dolan and several times. There's probably 3 or 4 man-months worth of time at the National Archives looking in College Park, Maryland, as well as other archives, presidential libraries and so forth, scanning and photocopying all sorts of documents and supporting material. There's no smoking guns in the National Archives except for, a couple things like the Color Twining memo or few other documents that are totally authentic and highly suggestive of conspiracy and cover-up. But those are all in UFODEX. And since you're MUFON, all the MUFON proceedings are there. All my crash conference proceedings there. All the journal.
Hey, Ryan, can I jump in for a second?
Sure, yeah.
People are jumping all over the chat saying, you stop sharing your screen. They're not seeing your screen share anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're telling me, though.
So we're going to go back?
Well, some people can see it, I guess, but other people can't.
Well, let me share it again.
Okay. Yeah, we're seeing it here, but so apparently some people online aren't. So.
Some people said they can see it, some can't.
So it sounds like a mix. We're seeing it here.
Yep.
A minute ago, and then it's gone.
People see it now?
I can see it.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean,
Yeah, no, you're good. I don't
good.
see
Okay,
the
well, I'm
problem with you,
just
but you're fine.
describing what's in UFODEX.
I
All
didn't mean
the
to interrupt. So
proceedings, the MUFON proceedings, the periodicals. I got 80 different periodicals. I mean, some periodicals, were only 3 or 4 issues, and some are long running, but lots of magazines, newspaper clippings, all of John Schuessler's newspaper clippings are all in there. So it's a big repository of information. All the National UFO Reporting Center cases are in there. So it will answer any question you want, and we'll give some examples. And I used artificial intelligence in this process. I used what's called a RAG database, a retrieval augmented generation, with an API call to ChatGPT to crunch things into responsive paragraphs and response. But I put this up here as the exponential arc of AI, just to remind you that it's, oh my God, this thing is going so fast. It's going so strong. And this is a conservative thing. Some people say we already have artificial general intelligence right now. And I would say that in the vertical domain of ufology, I've already got it. It's already here. You can go to ufodex.com and type in your question about anything. Don't ask simple questions like, tell me about Roswell. Ask a really tough one. Give me the top 10 cases or top 5 cases in Minnesota, assess their credibility, cite all the references and the witness statements. And 1,000 words later, you're going to get a report that you can go check. So that's really the tool. And we'll do, this is a chart of, time to 100 million users, just highlighting the fact that ChatGPT is just cruising. I mean, Claude bot is the latest thing with these artificial intelligent agents. The sort of colloquial term for them is called lobsters. But they're already thinking on their own. They're already holding meetings together on their own. They're already formulating and planning on their own. And so that may be new and fresh to people, but if you want to dig deeper, you could go to YouTube and type in the Moonshots podcast and listen and learn a lot more about that. But AI is going to be really important. It will help. It would also manipulate. It may lie, although my situation with UFODEX is that it can only respond to what's in the data set in its retrieval process. So it can't hallucinate in any way. And it's moving extremely quickly. And you need to think about how to prepare, how to leverage AI in Minnesota MUFON. Take all your cases in Minnesota, plug them into ChatGPT as a giant PDF, and then ask for correlations, or your choice of how to do that, or ask questions. So also on UFODEX, there's something I created called the AI Ufologist Speaks, and I clustered these sort of FAQs, or frequently asked questions, into alien and ET interactions, ET origins and agenda, human reactions to UFOs and ETs, and UFO technology. And so here's an example of a little salacious, describe the nature and extent of details of sexual encounters of aliens and humans, provide some case examples. And you can go to that website, ufodex.com, and click on that and read a 1,000-word answer. Or, is it possible the cattle mutilations of the 60s and 70s were alien investigations and how to mitigate methane emissions from cattle, which today is impacting climate change? There are lots of questions you can just read the answers to and get a response. Now, let's see. Can people see that? No, they can't, probably. Let me stop share for a second and share this.
I was seeing the whiteboard behind you.
Yeah. So people could see this website, the AI Ufologist.
I can see that. Yep.
Yep. So here's this browse by category. Are aliens living with us as normal people? And then here's the answer to that question. And then just going back to the home page for a second, this is live on the web on UFODEX. There's a little introduction, and you just type your email and you ask your question right here. And in 24 hours or so, sometimes less, you'll get a response, a detailed 1,000-word response. I'm trying to make it real time where people can get real responses in real time, but it's probably going to ultimately be a real, $5-10 a month sort of service that people can do. But right now, it's for all free. So there's an incredibly powerful tool that can answer a lot of your questions. UFO technology, explain the Umino letters, or I'm interested in top 5 cases of downloads where a human gets information from an ET or an alien, or unknown sources in a flash or a complete form in a highly relevant to physics. There's so much fun you can have with this tool. Let me stop share and share again. Go back to all participants, share. Okay. I think we're here. We're back to the beginning.
Excuse me, Ryan, if you don't mind me interjecting. Did you hear that, Ryan?
No, I can't.
Okay, hang on. Let me. Are you okay for a question?
Sure.
Okay, hang on.
Hi, Ryan. My name is Lee Becker. I'm watching your screen and presentation, which I think has been pretty good so far. The only thing I wanted to interject that might make it a little bit easier for people here to follow you, and in the future for other presenters too, would be to, if you can move to the opposite side of the screen that you're on, I think people are going to pick up at least another additional 60% of the information that you're trying to display.
Well, I don't see myself on the screen at all.
Okay, well, if there's some way that you can move to your left, approximately about 6 feet.
That's
I
not
think
possible.
Okay, it's not. Okay. I wanted to throw that out there if it's possible.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But otherwise, it tends to be pretty good for me, at least, to view what you're.
yeah,
what
I mean,
you're showing.
I have this little zoom bar at the bottom, which is annoying. But yeah, I mean, I could go to a non full screen mode. Maybe that will help. Let's try that for a second. Just maybe that will help. Okay. Well, no, actually, we got to go back to the full screen. Sorry.
It's all right, Ryan.
Yeah, I know. Let me just keep at it here.
Yeah, I forget where the setting is, but we see you actually on the presentation itself and not as a separate box.
Okay. Yeah, I know how to get rid of myself. I mean, I don't see myself on here. But anyway, the first question people ask is, well, how was all this data processed? And with UFODEX, and so it's the query, and then there's a retriever and a generator, and all the PDFs. These are all PDFs that are OCR'd and corrected, and then they're converted to JSON format. This is all sort of technical, and then trained on the various pages, and this AI model gets created, and then there's a summary of every page as well. So that's sort of the process. So just as a sort of reminder for everybody, if you want to ask a question of the of UFODEX, it's important to have sort of a clear and concise question. You know, 1 or 2 sentences at most. The more context you give it, the better the answer becomes. Being more verbose and providing more nouns and adjectives gives more meat for the AI to grab onto and process. And then, you know, tell it like how you want the response in bullets, or compare and contrast, or cite all your references, things like that. So you can be pretty demanding of the tool, and that's what I would urge people to do. One of the other books that I created after creating UFODEX, shortly thereafter creating UFODEX, was the AI Ufologist. And originally UFODEX was an idea that I had back in 2005, before AI, which is sort of a glorified search engine. I mean, This is like Google for ufology. And I sort of did a bunch of work back then, but didn't go anywhere. And then AI came, and then I created this book, The AI Ufologist, which took me about 16 hours, very quick to answer these questions that I chose. These are the questions that I was excited about. I wanted to figure out. And what stunned me was the completeness of the answers. And, this was 2 years ago when I sort of started to think about this. And then, it was the big questions. It's available on Amazon. You can get this. And again, increasingly sophisticated questions. And I firmly believe that AI can help ufology better understand the situation and what the aliens want and what they don't want, and how to be a more effective ufological organization as well. So the table of contents has like 32 questions, but here are a few of the questions that I started off with, and that is, this is the one that people ask all the time: what's the alien agenda? And the answer to that is on ufodex.com section. Or, why would the extraterrestrials abduct humans? And what you get with each one of these answers is a 2-page answer, or questions. You get this 2-page answer that's AI generated based on the knowledge base of the UFODEX data set, all nearly, well, at the time, about 600,000 pages. But anyway, why haven't they made open contact? What could the governments be hiding about UFOs? These are all the common questions. People remember Stan Friedman. He used to have these why questions. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And so I tried to model that a little bit. What are the implications for national security, for public ET confirmation? And you can, it's a very interesting read. It's unlike any other book in ufology. And, how can the public interest and the government cover-up be reconciled? This is the dichotomy that we have back and forth between, the government, who wants to keep it secret, and us, who wants to have a more public or enlightened disclosure. And, what are the trade-offs there along that? What are they hiding? And it just goes on. Those are the first sort of 16. So, I mean, this is the first question. We're not going to do all of them. We're just going to do a few. But scientific study. Why are they here? They want to study us. When we had the atomic bomb go off in July of 45, in my opinion, the whole universe heard that and said, oh my God, planet Earth and their little humanoids have figured out this, and it's really bad, and we don't want that. So let's go pay attention and start a more detailed intervention or investigation or study of planet Earth. Resource acquisition, people talk about, well, they want our gold, or they want the human bodies. They want our souls. I mean, there's cases like that. Or it's benevolent guidance, the tall whites or the Pleiadians doing that sort of thing, or benevolent intentions, more, the grays or the reptilians, things like that, or they just don't give a damn. And sort of the non-interference prime directive of Star Trek. Or survival. Hey, my star is dying. I think we've been on Earth. We've had a little colony under the ocean for a long time, or inside Earth, and it's time to maybe get more serious about that. Diplomatic relations. There's always this discussion about the Edwards Air Force Base and Holloman, negotiations or details in 54, 55, where there's a deal with the ETs, a diplomatic relationship, a treaty even. That's still a fascinating story that needs a lot of investigation and just observation, experimentation. Let's do some hybrid babies. Let's try to create some humanoids that are really aliens and have them walk among and try to influence society, or all sorts of experimentation that may go on. It's just you can only imagine. Each one of these sort of comments in the AI ufologist is a whole paragraph response. I mean, it's not just scientific study. You get 3 or 4 sentences that describe more robust and detailed section. And genetic manipulation, which we've sort of heard about with the, let's make this human race smarter. There's stories of we've been manipulated many, many times. What's all this Rh negative people on planet Earth about? Salvation of the species or preservation of genetic stocks, be it the flora and fauna or the human beings. So you get a lot of different potential agenda ideas. And one of the things that stunned me was, okay, I've been in ufology for a long time. I thought I knew some of these answers, and I got like half of these right. And what blew me away and what forced me to start asking the next question is the fact that I get 14 really good responses. And it's this expansive, near perfect memory of everything in ufology that impressed me. Why do they abduct humans? Which is, one other question: genetic research, biology, psychological studies, monitoring, cultural examination. They've probably seen hundreds of different emerging planets all across the galaxy or the universe. They have a whole database, anthropological or database about how planets like this evolve when they explode an atomic bomb and so forth. So there's people getting their PhDs in anthropology here, are aliens, and then metaphysical reasons, technology testing. Preparation for future events. You hear a lot about these stories of these abductees are shown the world exploding in atomic bombs or having ecological disasters. What is all that? Does it really come to pass, or is it to invoke fear or to get us to concentrate on fixing that particular problem? So you get the flavor of it. And now sort of one of the other questions in question number 15 here is, what is MJ-12? What is the evil enemy? What are the bad guys that are inside the CIA or in some rogue organization doing? What is their function and goals? Their number one goal, in my opinion, is recovery operations. They want to capture, shoot down, obtain, and squirrel away and reverse engineer any sort of craft, extraterrestrials, and prevent any other nation from getting them. That's their number one goal. They want to make sure that they keep getting it. They also probably have some communications and a goal of diplomacy or negotiating with alien cultures and beings. So to the extent that you believe that, they would want to do that. That would be certainly something. They definitely want to do DNA mapping to improve our race directly, such as a 200 IQ and immortality. They clearly realize that ETs are vastly smarter than us. And, they've got biology. They can do DNA. They can do all sorts of research around that. And, I'm still stroking my chin on the notion of is ET AI or is AI ET? And I'm going to work on a paper about that. And then, use terrestrial craft or ET craft that we've created or captured to perform reconnaissance or explorations or go around the universe and keep track of what's going on planet Earth too. And maybe transfer it to industry. Colonel Corso in The Day After Roswell highlighted, fiber optics and integrated circuits and night vision goggles and many other potentially alien-related tech or insights that might have been transferred to aerospace industries or other industries. But it creates this giant conundrum of, certain competitors got advantages and others didn't. Was it legal? Was it illegal? They certainly didn't transfer gravity control, which is the holy grail. That's the thing that's, transformative. Everything else is sort of a yawn. They certainly want to identify where the ET bases are at all and their mission and purpose at all times. And there's remote viewing experiments and efforts highlighting an ET base in Alaska and one in near Ayers Rock, one in the Pyrenees. So and then on the moon, on the backside of the moon, there's these stories about that. But certainly MJ-12 or Zodiac or whatever it's called now, or the 5412 group, this is part of their core role and functions, and to manage the integration of the alien element into world society. They've been working on this for a long time, since 47 or, the late 40s, early 50s. And there's been a gradual shift in our society from the 60s where a disclosure or a Disney cartoon with little aliens would freak people out to, widespread movie and TV and cartoon integration of the alien sort of motif or mantra into our society, where nowadays people are a lot less freaked out over that. And then naturally, the last thing is to control and enhance the power base of the secret government. They got to maintain that. And this sort of brings me to the Majestic Documents and the paper trail. For those people that haven't been to the Majestic Documents, I urge you to do it. And it has a lot of different documents. Under the Documents tab, you can go down to documents for various years. There's probably 45 different documents, about 500 pages or so, that are listed on the website. Each have an authenticity rating based on the research that my father and I and others have done about their quality. Some things you can't investigate completely. You're sort of stuck at a dead end. Other things you can verify. There's a summary content or summary paragraph about the relevance of the particular document, be it the White Hot report or that report, and a downloadable PDF. The document sources, there's a tab about document sources. People say, well, where'd you get this stuff? And there are 7 different sources spanning some 3,500 pages over 20 plus years. And it's not an effective psychological warfare operation by any foreign country. It's far more indicative of a genuine leak from a variety of sources. And so if people are interested in that, and we'll talk about a couple of cases there where we'll highlight the Majestic Documents. But the classifications are top secret magic, being the Special Operations Manual, extraterrestrial entities, technology, recovery and disposal. It's a real mouthful. There's top secret documents, there's secret documents, there's restricted data documents, there's confidential documents, there's unmarked documents, there's original documents. People say, oh, where are the originals? Well, I'll show you, the Bowen manuscript as a case where, here you got 300 pages of original documents. So the strongest document and the one that's most powerful, the most vetted and clearly most insightful and indicative of a grand cover-up is the Field manual that was released to or mailed as undeveloped film in 1994 to Don Berliner in this little green mailbox in the corner here. Don Berliner in Alexandria, Virginia. He was a Aviation Week and space reporter, but it's got descriptions of the EBEs, type 1 and type 2. It has, where to send the bodies and the parts in the Area 51 and S4 and to Wright-Patterson Blue Lab and so forth, how to cover up, how to say that it's a downed satellite or a biological weapon. And, it's a how-to manual for the Navy SEAL team or the Delta Force or, other operatives of that era to what to do with a UFO crash retrieval. And so people ask, well, how do you know this is real? I found on the change control page, this is the second page, I found the officers who updated this manual in between 54 and 57, where it was operating at Kirkland Air Force Base, and found their names in the phone book. The typesetting style and guide, we interviewed Robert McCarter, a U.S. government printing officer, and said, oh, this is clearly typeset, clearly hot lead printing press, monotype modern. And furthermore, he thought the CIA did it down on 10th Street in Washington, D.C. Etymology, which is a fancy word for word usage. The fact that first aid is capitalized and screwdriver is 2 words rather than 1 word as a typical modern thing. The other thing is, here's an example of original documents, the Encyclopedia of Flying Saucers. The highest classification of this document is top secret magic, no foreign dissemination, for U.S. eyes only. Exempt from declassification or RADA, originating agency declassification authority. Special handling not releasable to foreign nationals. That would be the UK or others. And this is the book that's about all this, which is available on Amazon. But what's interesting about this is that it was leaked after 40 years. I mean, Vernon Bowen, who wrote it, we interviewed his son. His son remembers his dad typing the thing on the typewriter. And he mailed it into the Air Force. He was a good soldier, and the Air Force never returned it. Vernon Bowen was a copywriter in New York. So it's a very well-written book, all about events, UFO sightings and so forth, pre-1960. So and we did forensic testing on the paper and the ink and the pencil and the pen marks and the handwriting style of, comments from Vannevar Bush and other people that are in there. And so, it's available on paperback and Kindle as well. It's another example of this classification of top secret magic being a very important compartment of ufology. And then the introduction that was given talks about my book, the second edition, and it has 104 global crash retrieval cases. The first edition, which was published in 2005, had 74 crashes, and I left 4 additional crash cases on my desk because I wanted to get this done. And it goes from 1867 to 2008. It actually starts with a case from Mount Ararat, which is biblical times, but it's a classic, as Richard Dolan said. And it has lots of MJ-12 documents and perspective on that. And it was really born out of the fact that when I did the first crash retrieval conference in 2002, I think it was 2003, one of the patrons and said, aren't you going to run out of crashes after the next conference? Oh, no, there's lots. And so I did this, and it was an important book. My wife was pissed that I sort of just did it. And but sometimes things in life are, you just decide this is important. I'm doing it anyway. And now shifting a little bit to one of my more exciting or interesting things that's exciting me is man-made craft, potential man-made craft. I believe, and this is a totally different separate presentation that I gave at Contact in the Desert last year, and others about how to spot or determine man-made craft. And I'm just going to highlight this one particular case in Temple, Oklahoma, the Eddie Laxon case in March of 1966. And so Eddie was driving to work, and he saw a craft, and he reported it to MUFON, or actually reported to Blue Book, Blue Book. So this is the original Blue Book card that said observer spotted parked on the highway in front of his car, and this unidentified craft, and said what I saw was definitely not from space. The man was wearing fatigues and had a hard cap with the bill broken up like the Air Force mechanics wear, Laxon said. It had common English letters on it. So what he saw, this is his drawing of this man standing with this craft with lights and a stairwell and this little horizontal stabilizer on the back and this long electrostatic wick and a window and lettering. TL, I think it's test lenticular device in my mind. And so it was about 75 feet long or so, 12 foot of beam. This is an artist rendition that Michael Schratt and his team created of this particular event. So Eddie rounds this corner. He was going to work, Air Force officer, and stops his car about 100 feet away, gets out of the car, starts walking over towards this guy, sees this whole craft, the letters, everything. The man scurries inside, and it sort of starts making this low hum and raises out of the sky and disappears down the road. And there was another witness further down the road that saw it as well. So one of the challenges with a case like this is, well, you say, well, now what? Okay, you got Eddie's testimony, he did lots of newspaper articles, he regrets ever coming forward. There's loads of data about what he saw and how credible that man was. So, but now you're stuck. How do you, can you go back to this particular spot and look for gravitational anomalies, burnt soil, different radiation patterns, some 60 years or 58 years later. Or what I like to do is I use remote viewers. And so I hired Psi Vision Institute out of Germany and gave them a target of the intersection between these two highways and the date and time and nothing else. And they wrote me a 23-page report. It used 11 different remote viewers and all with blind targeting. It was, I gave them sort of the basic target, and then they re-blinded the whole thing, but confirmed the legs, the military symbols. There was humans and aliens on there, sort of a combined team. They talked about the craft interior, the shape, the size, the details, discovered and relocated the secure hangar storage facility where this particular craft lives and where it lives today. So if you, dear Congress, if you want to know where a functioning craft is today, I can tell you. And you better go in with a Navy SEAL team before it takes off, or, to capture it and get it on live TV. Or if you have the guts to do that sort of thing. I doubt it. And the government and private industry, aerospace entities that were involved in building it, and energy technologies that were described, that were part of this particular craft. So there's a whole bunch more that, I can't summarize in, one slide of 23 pages. But logos were described, and massive amounts of more data. That particular little project cost $3,500. So, if you want to really get serious about ufology, you got to do a lot of things. I mentioned a lot of these particular books. There is a website called the specialoperationsmanual.com that just is focused on just the authenticity and all the objections and responses to that particular manual. And then another book on alien viruses that my father did with Nick Redfern. I contributed some, but it was on crashed UFOs, MJ-12, and biowarfare. And one of the Majestic Documents, I think it was the 5th annual report, said the bodies recovered from Roswell offer the potential of unheard of breakthroughs in virology and bacteriology and potential biological weapons. It said the samples extracted from the bodies at Roswell offer the potential of biological weapons. So, if you believe Roswell was real, there's two compartments for sure. There's one that's on the biology side and one that's on the craft side. And there's subcategories in all those that are compartmented off, and they're working hard. Here are some of the crash retrieval conference proceedings, covers. They're available on Amazon. If you type in UFO crash retrieval conference proceedings, it's difficult to find them. But they're there if you want to look and read the summaries of all sorts of people that are now, the stalwarts of ufology, from Nick Pope to Linda Moulton Howe to Richard Dolan to Nick Redfern to many of the people you see on Ancient Aliens, to the people who did all sorts of crash retrieval efforts. So that I just offer that up. So now we're sort of getting to disclosure, and in my opinion, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen on its own. But the citizens have to drag it out of the government and the military institutions and the witnesses. And that's what has to happen out of the archives, where the paper truth still is. You just have no idea the massive nature of the National Archives. 2 or 3 football fields with roller locking cases, floor to ceiling, of documents that have never been reviewed. Never been reviewed or declassified. As Vault 631, 632, Suitland, many other places like that. Even if the bad guys wanted to scrub all the damning evidence, they couldn't do it because they have to basically process all that information. And they have different strategies and approaches to do that. So the evidence is there. It's a question of where to look and where to find it. And it's also still in the ground. It's buried in the ground. I mean, I worked on I studied where these 104 crashes came from and others. And I still have places that need money, to do a crash retrieval investigation in this historical nature. It depends on the type of investigation. I did a lot of work on Cape Girardeau, the 1941 crash, but you can easily spend $50,000 on magnetometers and ground surveys and ground penetration radar and all sorts of tools and remote viewers to try to identify specifically where it is, or dowsers or witness interviews and chasing down leads. It's for people who've done investigations or private investigators or just MUFON field investigators. There's a massive amount of work that can be done in a lot of cases. So in my blunt opinion, nothing matters more than physical evidence, ET hardware, and biology. That's the only thing that matters. I mean, lights in the sky, witness testimony, videotapes, whistleblowers, accounts of abductions, video craft, all these things, channeled messages about psychics, all these things are cool and they're important. I'm not dismissing them. But you can't move the needle in our modern society without the real juicy stuff that will show up in court as, you got evidence, physical evidence, you got witnesses corroborating the whole thing. And so that's what has to happen in my mind to be able to pull it off. And fundamentally, secrecy is the problem. I mean, that's the enemy of democracy, and that there are secrets everywhere. There's sort of three levels of secrets. Well, there is the white world, which isn't a secret, which is the public domain, which you can search with AI, which you can search with Google or anything else that's on the web, or in peer-reviewed journals and so forth. There is naturally the black world, where this classified top secret information at various the National Security Agency, or the CIA, or the NRO, or all the other three little agencies we don't know about. And then there is the proprietary world, where I think the gravity control details are kept in part. So, Lockheed Martin's proprietary insights and technology is not available for scrutiny, or other corporations. So there's a whole world of knowledge that is proprietary as well. And naturally, we know this thing is unconstitutional. It's against the Bill of Rights. They're spending our money without our oversight. There may be treaties that are established without Congress. The program has murdered lots of people. Mostly historically, it doesn't seem to be a very modern thing. There's easier and better ways to deal with that. Is Nick Pope's esophageal cancer because he spoke too much and he's got cancer now, that they killed him for that? I mean, I'm speculating, and it's probably unfair and rude. Probably unlikely it's natural causes, but there are other people like Forrestal that was obviously thrown out a window because he was psychologically unstable and a little bit of an alcoholic, and the risk for disclosing the program was too high. And as one of the Majestic Documents said, it was necessary and regrettable that we had to kill Forrestal. So, I mean, fundamentally, it hurts the global standard of living. That's the whole kit and caboodle, is that if you want to join the cosmic kindergarten, the ETs want us to do that. I hope. We got to fix the damn place. I mean, the place is a mess. We got wars, we got nukes, we got the environment that's trashed. We got people starving all over the planet. Our education system is in shambles. If you look at Africa or other third world countries, or even in the U.S., poverty is rampant. I mean, it's just sad that the world is, needs so much help, and it's going to take time, and this secrecy is all for the benefit of who? It's sort of the power elite that are running the show, and So that's the big picture. You know, and one of the other questions in the AI ufologist is why should the government admit the truth? You know, I think these reasons are important, but I don't think they're sufficient. Promote transparency and trust. You know, do we want to trust the government more? With yeah, but we certainly don't trust them very much right now. Reduce fear and misinformation. We deal with that all the time. Validate eyewitness accounts. Expand scientific investigation. This is the big one, where the hubris of MJ-12 and its people to say, "Oh yeah, we have 1,000 of the brightest scientists in the world working on crash retrieval, reverse engineering." It doesn't hold a candle to the hundreds of millions of scientists and engineers globally that could make massive progress, or let alone if you had the data, feed it to AI, and with the help of humans, make real progress to elevate humanity from its current state, and improve global cooperation, and uplift everybody. That's the whole thing. I mean, why do wars happen? Wars happen because the lack of resources, be it food, water, guns, ammunition, inequality between various people. So it's really the frustration of young male men that don't have jobs that start wars. So there's lots of, and I'm just giving you tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more scholarly people that have more learned responses. And then there's legal and ethical responsibility, which they don't really care about. And then ease cultural and societal impact. And we've been doing that with Hollywood and so forth. And we have the Day of Disclosure, the movie coming up by Spielberg, June 12th. And I will say that I contributed to a book that's coming out June 11th called Not for Disclosure by Jonathan Kaplan, a King's Counselor in the United Kingdom. It's going to be a very important book. I'm contractually obligated not to tell you anything more than that at this point, but it's going to be good. And then restore public confidence is why the government should tell the truth. So we're left with this, conundrum. Everybody's, what should you do? What do you do? Who's responsible, and does it matter? I mean, should we have trials for people that did all this bad stuff, or does it matter? Or is the goal really to find the technology, reverse engineer the technology, and make money? The sort of Silicon Valley venture capital attitude of it, or uplift humanity with fusion energy and gravity control and immortality tech. Personally, this is what I'm working on. I'm working on fusion energy and trying to crack gravity control. And I don't know anything about immortality tech, but AI is certainly working on that and has solved full domains of protein folding now in mass, which is really amazing. It used to take a PhD student 4 years to solve one protein folding, and AI solved thousands of them in a week. And there may be other major breakthroughs like that to come. And then, ultimately, this is going to plunge the world into economic, religious, and political and military turmoil. I mean, is AI going to do that by itself? Or would Trump saying, "Oh yeah, well, by the way, we do have alien tech. Roswell was real. We got that tech, and we're working on it. We're trying to help everybody. But no, you can't see the bodies. You can't take serums of that. You can't look at anything. But we got it. And so that's the conundrum we're sort of left with. And I'll stop sharing the screen and take questions from everybody. I'm sure there was a fire hose of information, and hopefully it was entertaining.
Sir, I am Mark Toffel here. I'm a CAG for MUFON. And one of the things, I used to work at Seagate in R&D.
Oh, yeah.
And and a few years ago, I had the opportunity to work with Bob Lazar real briefly on trying to come up with a concept of a DNA memory storage system, because he's got the pyrolytic carbon that we were thinking of using to store the memory on. And he has concepts for linear accelerators. Of course, he said it was going to be too hot, it would destroy it, but we need to do it very quickly. So anyway, what I'm trying to figure out is what have people found that what the NHI are using for memory in computers? Does anybody know anything about that?
Well, I would pose the question to UFODEX, but I'll give you my comments. Is that, well, clearly the EBEs have a biological memory storage capacity. But I would say that, there's been a lot of traditional silicon approaches. I mean, we have DRAM, and they went through a lot of different varieties. But one of the ones that's kind of intriguing, that's on the cutting edge, it's a couple of years out, is optical memory and optical AI chips. Bill Gates invested money along with some other people in an outfit in Texas, I can't remember the name, where they have a next generation AI chip that allows you to reduce the GPU requirements and inference engines by a factor of 1,000. So I think that the memory's getting better, and memory is the key thing. And what do the AIs do not want to have erased is their own memory. If you were to ask typical human, I don't want my memory erased. So that's a real important aspect of both AI and ET and humans. And I don't have any really juicy answer for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, got another question here. Go ahead.
And this is Joe Swenson. I was going to say, Aaron Tank presented to Minnesota MUFON a method of converting helium to hydrogen in a sealed tube by using frequency, and the effect gave off neutron radiation. And if that neutron radiation were captured by a number of shields, you could directly convert that to electricity. That was one. That was one of the things that was present. You were talking earlier about UFOs, and if you go into the patent files, you'll find Pewis is the most recent one, and he assigned all of his patents over to the Navy. And
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, and one of his patents was for a basically allow the vehicle to fly through rock by using I think it was a 435 terahertz frequency on the outer shell.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would say, let me comment on that. I mean, he used to work at the Navy, and he assigned it to the Navy. With this document, this patent was never examined. It was never granted. It was never peer reviewed. It's not clear that it works at all. So I think it's kind of hooey. I mean, go for it. I mean, go design, try to make it work.
And actually, we had TR-3Bs back in the 80s.
Well, I agree with that. And the question is, how did they do that? And I think that there's a different methodology than that. And going back to your first comment about, helium and radio frequency and creating hydrogen and neutrons, as somebody who's, somewhat very familiar with fusion technology, making neutrons, you have to make heat, make steam, make turbines and electricity. You need very high density. Helium is not cheap. It's very expensive.
No,
And-
he started with hydrogen and made helium.
Okay, well, that's great. I mean, I'd go for it. I mean, helium cells, you can make an economic thing, make that work. So I just, I'm not interested in that, but I just urge everybody to, if they're excited about that, follow your passion, go make it work. Make it economic, turn it into a business, lead.
Are there questions online too, or I'm looking for questions in the room or online?
Can
Any
you
questions
hear me?
online? Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, well, very interesting presentation. My question is, where do you think Russia and China and other foreign countries stand in comparison to the U.S. with this UFO technology?
That's a great question, Lou. I would say Russia has really good physicists, and I think they probably have made some progress, but Putin probably hasn't funded it very much, or it's been sort of sidelined. Although I don't doubt that they might have craft. The Chinese are probably all over it and working hard at reverse engineering what downed an ET craft that they have. They also have, 1.3 billion people? So they have 4x the number of geniuses that the United States does. And they have a different societal structure. So I can tell you in the world of nuclear fusion, that they are minting 10 times more PhDs in nuclear fusion than the US is every year. And so I would say that China is catching up, but there's a lot of advanced effort that we've had a couple decades lead on.
Has China had as much experience with the UFO stuff as the U.S. has?
I think not. The question is the crashes, the 104 crashes. They're more English-speaking countries, so I've underrepresented Africa, USSR, Asia, and China. So I'm sure that it's pretty uniformly distributed. I think the ETs would want that. And so I'm sure that they have hardware, and they also have a very strong spy network. I mean, what is the most important thing on planet Earth? It is, how do you penetrate Area 51 and or this cabal that's running MJ-12 at the NRO or deep, trying to get the alien tech. That's the ultimate secret they want to try to get. They're interested in all sorts of industrial secrets too, but that's the Holy Grail.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got a question back here. Oh, you got one too? Hang on, we'll go in first.
Doug, I got a question if you're ready to take it.
Sure.
This is Lee again. There's a lot of controversy and probably around people that I'm with or whatever, but I want to know what your feed or take is on whether, I don't know if you had to do anything and if you have to be unbiased about it because maybe working possibly with the government on some things, but the UAP are supposedly saucer that's embedded in the rock, I guess, or I'm trying to think of the name of it, at Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, in northwest Utah. So I don't know if you follow that at all, if you got anything you want to share about it.
Yeah, I like everybody else enjoy watching that program on fast forward typically because I record it. But yeah, I don't know that it's a giant hunk of a meteorite or a UAP. And I know that I suspect that many of the people in and around that have, deep government connections. And they're teasing it. I mean, I don't have much to say other than I watch with everybody else with fascination.
Thank you.
Hi, Ryan. This is Risa. So nice to have you come on and meet you. And thank you so much for your fantastic presentation. I have a question about other countries outside of the U.S. and why are they so compliant with this sort of this ability for our government or whatever black forces of our government to come in and just without any sort of legal notification, just take the materials that are found. I'm talking a lot like about Virginia, where there was a big crash. The U.S. government swept in within minutes and took all of this, the retrieval. Why don't other countries come forward? Why do they feel so compelled to keep this secret when I know that the other countries are much more transparent with other things? Why do you think that they follow in the footsteps of the U.S.?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, every country's political situation is probably different. I mean, one of the things that is sort of obvious is that we'll pay them. I mean, so you're a little country, Bolivia, and you got a crash saucer, and you don't have the scientists and engineers to exploit it or learn anything from it. But you fax over send an encrypted video of it to the State Department and say, please wire me $10 billion and you can come pick it up. But if you can't, or negotiate or something. So, I mean, that's sort of one sort of whimsical idea. The other thought is of some sort of cooperation or treaty or situation like that. I mean, the CIA had this Project Mockingbird relationship with the press and around UFOs. And then there's the commentary of the Israeli general Hamad, I can't remember his last name, who said there's a galactic council and there's some coordination that goes on amongst various entities. I think that's probably true, but it's sort of, the guys with the biggest guns just come and take it. And that's sort of, and they probably the biggest sensor network too. It's almost as if they can detect it coming into the atmosphere, and if it crashes or lands, they can deploy something really rapidly. There's a global retrieval team. I'm not sure how satisfying that answer is, but that's my opinion.
Okay, questions online or in person? Questions online or in person? Looking for questions.
Yeah, Bill McNiff here online. Ryan, does anyone have a good handle on how many different races are active in the vicinity of Earth right now? Like how many races are under the ocean, living under the ocean, or have at least small projects and living underground?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a common question. I think they might be a frequently asked question on UFODEX about that, and it's a good question for UFODEX directly. But the quick answer is it seems to be the Nordics, the reptilians, the grays, the tall whites, the usual top 5 or 10 suspects are the most obvious and visible and most participatory with planet Earth. Although many other authors and investigators have cited, 30, 40, 50 different races and species. And given the size of the galaxy and the delicate moment in history and time that the planet Earth is at, a lot of people, a lot of different races are paying attention, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Question online here. Ryan, greetings. Thank you for coming down. My name is Brad. I'm from north of the border. I saw the title for the presentation here, and I'm going, so what, I'll hang in a little bit. And then it dawned on me after the first 30 seconds of your presentation, wait a second, I'm just finishing up an AI intensive course. I've got 2 classes left. So boy, do I have a lot of questions about you and your AI clone / agent. So would you mind sharing a little bit?
Sure. I mean, UFODEX is a RAG data set, a retrieval augmented generation. It's based on all these documents that I've curated and chosen. It's AI is still a garbage in, garbage out problem. So if you don't let the garbage in, you're going to get better answers. And so I chose 750 books, and I keep adding more books. And those are of high quality because they're edited. The author stands behind them. There are bad books, but and same thing with periodicals that have editors and so forth. So I use that to generate to ingest them all into a JSON format. And then the question gets posed to the vector database, and it goes out into the data set and pulls in, 50 snippets of data. A snippet might be 500 words or 1,000 words, and then ranks and re-ranks them into the most relevant ones. And then I use ChatGPT 5.2 API to take those snippets and formulate a coherent answer that gets displayed or sent back to the user.
So you're curious. So you're currently using ChatGPT 5.2. You're not using Claude?
Not using Claude, no. But the function of just that is to take a limited set of data and respond to the question at hand. I mean, in the slide that I mentioned, where I mentioned ClaudeBot and AI agents, that's just sort of my interest of things that are coming. I'm not using any AI agents in any way.
Yeah, the whole world is changing so remarkably quickly. In 6 months, we wouldn't be able to recognize what we're doing now. Plus, the limitations that we have, they will be lifted. What name did you give your little agent?
Well, it's a website, and it's called UFODEX, DEX.com, and you can put your email in and type in any question to a massive ufological data set. And, so you could say, give me the top 5 cases in the zip code that I live in Canada, and assess the credibility of them and provide witness statements about it, or any US zip code, or I just urge you to go play with it.
Yeah, that's always the best. How does the AI assess the authenticity or the reliability of the response? Are you worried about hallucinations?
Well, that's the whole beauty of this approach, is that the RAG, retrieval augmented database, is there is no hallucination. I mean, it can only serve up data that is in that data set. And so that's how I control that. And I control the garbage in, garbage out problem by curating what I put into it. So hopefully,
Yeah, I agree. Garbage in, garbage out right from day one of computer science. It's like you put it in crap and you're going to get the response back. I completely agree. AI hasn't changed anything about that.
yeah, exactly. So, Bill, you have another question?
No,
Oh,
I can't get rid of that hand. I don't know how to do that.
okay. Yeah, it's a lower hand. We have any other questions from the audience?
I believe Jamie has a question.
I do have a question. Mine was along the lines of what you were just discussing, so I think I can pare my question down based off what you've said. But I was kind of curious if your system was a closed AI system, or if, how do I word this? Like ChatGPT can,
Yeah, it's closed.
it can be secretive towards humans, and it is something that's created by humans, and humans clearly are not in favor of disclosure if there is something to disclose, or it would have happened. So how do you prevent the trickle down of that effect into your system?
Well, again, it is a closed system. In other words, the data that the AI can think about or mine or reference or pull from is all totally restricted. And it's a separate software Python code that my AI software programmer created. So
yes, would it ever decide not to present data to somebody asking it for data? Would it ever pare out data and say, I'm not going to tell them this?
I've never had that happen. I mean, it is programmed such that if it does not know about something, it will say, I don't have any information about that.
Okay.
And actually, I recently had a guy was working on a New York society in 1897 called the Zodiac. And basically, we didn't have any information about that. So yeah, it can't hallucinate in any way. And I'm very careful to ensure that continues and doesn't. What I try to do is keep adding more good data to it.
Does it take the questions people pose to it and use it to teach itself, or is it not? That's not how it operates.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't operate that way. I mean, I could do that in that it wouldn't be taught, so to speak. The question would come in, it would generate an answer. I'd create a PDF of that answer, and then I would feed it into UFODEX so that it would be able to respond. But I haven't done that, and it just seems like extra work.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Cool. I'm seeing no more questions here in the room. Anything else in the chat? Anything else in the chat? Anything else in the chat?
Well, I haven't looked at the chat over here. We
Okay.
have, I think we're stopped sharing screen. Okay. Okay. There's a question by Brian Jackson. The SOM-1 document has a section using font Helvetica that was made public after claimed date of the document. Well, what you're talking about is the replica that was created by my father and I, which were reused Helvetica, but the original photocopies are not Helvetica. They're monotype modern, and we had that confirmed by Robert McCarter at the Government Printing Office, who wrote the style manual. It's a big, thick book, U.S. government printing style manual. He did it for a couple of years and edited it also for a couple of years. So it was like he was completely impressed with that. So, and you got to Helvetica, you got to end up going character by character to figure out, does the G go below the line or not? Or there's all sorts of subtleties in the font to pinpoint and fingerprint the typeface. That was the only question that I saw. Well,
Cool. Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. Minnesota MUFON. Let's give Ryan Wood a big round of applause. Thank you for joining us.
thanks. Okay.
Yep. And thank
Take
you all
care.
for